Zimbabwean journalist Hopewell Chinono says platforms like M20 are critical in strengthening solidarity with journalists. Chinono has been one of the speakers at the M20 Summit in Johannesburg. He says journalists are facing a number of challenges. Khayelihle Khumalo has more.
Well, absolutely. So the conditions really that the journalists are facing in the continent are really precarious. So that has been one of the focal points today as this particular summit is concluding. And joining us now is Hopewell Chin'ono, all the way from Zimbabwe. We know that he has been really instrumental in uncovering a number of major stories pertaining to corruption. Hopewell, when you were just talking inside, you were speaking about the very harsh realities that you had to encounter where you were harassed purely for doing your job.
Yeah, that is the case in Zimbabwe. It's very difficult to practice journalism, especially if you are exposing corruption, because right up from the top, from the president, his ministers, they're running criminal cartels which are crimming off taxpayers' money. They loot public funds using the procurement system. And if you do report, you end up in a situation that I ended up in where I was arrested 3 times and jailed 3 times inside 6 months for simply doing my work.
And obviously platforms like M20, I would imagine it's a good way to try and create that solidarity among journalists, to have that platform really to talk about these issues, for the governments to see not just the G20 countries but all over the world, especially given a very tough economic environment, but also having direct implications for media houses.
Yes, indeed. I think the M20 is a good platform, and many platforms like that are good and conducive for media practitioners, because they are a reminder of the hurdles we still have to overcome going into the future. We have a situation where there are many journalists from around the continent who are now in exile in South Africa because they could not practice journalism in their own country. Just recently, the editor of the Zimbabwean Independent, Faith Zaba, she was arrested for simply doing her work. Before that, her colleague, Blessed Mhlanga, again was arrested and spent about 85 days in prison. In 2014, Itai Zamara was abducted and killed, and we don't even know where they dumped his body. So we need to have this kind of summits, because they are a reminder of what we need to do, and they are also a source of solidarity. When you meet other people, you create networks, and when you are in trouble, like some of us have been in, you are then able to have people who can speak on your behalf, because when you speak about a colleague who has been arrested across the continent, leaders listen, but silence allows leaders to continue persecuting us.
Before we let it go, Hopewell, obviously out of this session, we know that a declaration will come out, and Minister Malatsi of Communications and Digital Technologies in South Africa made a commitment to make sure that the declaration reaches the G20 leaders. What do you hope to see becoming a very overarching message coming out from these journalists across the length and breadth, from right here in the continent and also just outside of Africa?
I think it's important for countries like South Africa, which is the biggest economy on the continent, to make sure that there's political will across the continent. Because when the president of South Africa speaks, everyone listens. When he ignores certain things, like he's been doing in the region in SADC, dictators like Emmerson Mnangagwa, they will continue doing what they are doing. So G20 being a grouping which focuses on the economy, that economic muscle must be brought to bear for dictators who are not allowing free speech and free media to conform, because countries don't succeed if they don't have media. A media house is like a mirror on society. It helps you see the good and the bad, and when you see the bad, you are then in a position to fix that. So I hope that as part of the community, the issue of free press and the idea that journalists can be arrested for doing their work should be condemned.
All right. Hopewell, thank you so much indeed. Of course, all the way from Zimbabwe, part and parcel of these all-important discussions here in Johannesburg. And also we know that it's edging close to South Africa's G20 Leaders Summit to be held here in Johannesburg around November. Khayelihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.